Joseph Howe said, "A wise nation preserves its monuments and celebrates its glorious deeds."
We have a real burden of responsibility as Canadians to do what we can to make sure that icons like this are simply not allowed to rust away.
And of course, the generations, as they go by, they're getting less and less of the story.
We've still got to strive somehow or another to get the story across to the Canadian public to make sure that the preservation of this ship is a sure thing.
And celebrating this important part of the Second World War would be a fitting piece of that emerging nationhood, sense of national identity.
World War II was, to a dominant degree, a war of supply by sea.
The Navy up until the Second World War was really a flotilla of the Imperial Fleet. I know it was owned by the Government of Canada, it was the Royal Canadian Navy, but psychologically, in terms of its action, it really belonged to the Imperial Fleet.
By early 1943, the ferocity of the Battle of the Atlantic went up almost like a tan curve. The losses of the merchant shipping, the tankers, the ones carrying tanks and guns, munitions and so on, and food for the United Kingdom were far outstripping the capability to rebuild. And so any escort was absolutely vital. This is where Canada stepped into the breach. And Canada ordered corvettes, of which Sackville was one of the 3 to be built in the Maritimes in St. John.
They rolled like hell, they pitched like hell, out into some of the most perilous, awful ocean voyages in the world, plus the fact of being in imminent danger of being sunk.
So she saw the heaviest action, of course, on North Atlantic, and was in a number of U-boat chases. And of course, this ship lasted her whole career, 1941, right through to the end of the war.
Well, I joined the Canadian Navy in 1940 out of St. John, New Brunswick. And these small corvettes looked so exciting and challenging, and a lot of fun could be had, we thought, at the time. I guess that sort of motivated us to head that direction.
So yeah, there's a lot of people from Toronto, there's a lot of people from the prairies, there's a lot of people from BC, a lot of people from Quebec, fewer from the Maritimes, virtually in proportion to their national distribution of population. So it really is a broad national experience.
To be truthful, none of us were really qualified to do that job in retrospect, but it worked.
Sackville is, it's not just our victory, HMS Victory, in the way that that's embodied in the Royal Navy. I think it's much more than that. It represents a real transition from colonial status to national status. So for me, this ship embodies the growth of Canada as a country and its assertion of its own independence and its own, if you like, maturity.
And the joy of the people of Canada swept aside all the wartime hurt as they welcomed back their sons, fathers, and sweethearts.
So after the war, you Canadians, you were really good at convoy escort and anti-submarine warfare. That's what you should do as part of NATO. And so the Saint Laurent class escort destroyers come directly out of that lineage. And of course, in the 1950s, Canada becomes a world leader in anti-submarine technology, tactics, and doctrine.
So amazing that this relatively small country could produce a navy large enough to be given the command of the western North Atlantic.
So I think the legacy here is very clear. This is where it really starts in terms of the modern Canadian Navy.
Well, that's what it is, history. And that history has got to be getting the story across to the public, and how to do that is a challenge, there's no doubt about it.
Our vision is that we will build a destination that will attract all Canadians, so they will see the soul of the Navy, HMCS Sackville. The overall complex will consist of, and we hope iconically designed, a beautiful building that is also appropriate within the Halifax waterfront. In conjunction with that, there will be a Naval Heritage Center, and see the whole history of the Navy since 1910, and understand where the Navy came from, its great achievements, and where it's going in the future.
We need interest in our servicemen and women, and this old ship for one.
It's estimated that there's somewhere between 1.5 million and 2 million Canadians who have some family connection to the Navy. This is going to be an overall national effort.
So it is an artifact not only of the Canadian experience, but it's an artifact of an era, and it has international significance because of what she represents for the Battle of the Atlantic.
This is the only ship that survives, and so having this ship is to evoke that connection with what really were glorious days for Canada.